So people ask me how to set up a business, and sometimes I hesitate to answer that question because I don't want this video to be 2 hours. All right. There are a lot of moving parts, a lot of steps, but I want to try to make it as simplified as possible. So I'm not going to cover every single detail, but I do want to give you the gist. And of course, you can always ask questions in the comments. Okay. That being said, 5 steps to set up your business. Number 1, you got to figure out what type of entity you are. What type of business are you? We'll talk about that. Sole proprietorship, LLC, corporation. We'll briefly talk about that. 2, you got to get licensed to do whatever business you do where you plan on doing it. More than likely where you live. So you need to get licensed to do business where you live or where you plan on doing business. 3, and this is optional, depending on what kind of entity you have, you may have to register with your state, right? And then 4, also optional, you may have to register with the federal government. And then you take all that paperwork from steps 1 through 4 and then go get a bank account, which is step number 5, all right? And that allows you to take in money as a business, okay? Now, all that being said, keep in mind, you don't have to do any of these steps. If you have like a very, very, very simple business and you take your lawnmower and you cut someone's yard and they give you $50, do you need all that stuff to do that? No, right? It's $50. But I'm assuming you're on here because you want to make a lot more than $50, right? So keep that in mind. I'm really speaking more to the people who are trying to do like legit, like bigger volumes of business, right? Not a side hustle, not a hobby, but you're really trying to make a living with this, okay? All right, so let's go back to the beginning. The business entity. You hear this a lot on YouTube, LLC versus sole proprietorship. There's a lot of videos out there like that. I don't want to really get into that, but there's three main, there's other ones, but 3 main types of business: sole proprietorship, an LLC, and a corporation, okay? Just to make it simple, I want you to think about it like the 3 little pigs, okay? You got the straw house, the stick house, and the brick house, okay? So what do you think the straw house is? That's the sole proprietorship, right? That's something you could make really quick and just pick a name, and as long as the name's not in use by anybody else, go directly to the business licensing place, whether that's your county or city, or the courthouse, probably the courthouse in your city or county, and you register your business and you sign the paperwork and you're off to the races, right? It's the easiest thing to set up, all right? Sole proprietorship is very easy. You're probably going to use either your own social security number. You can get what's called an EIN, which is I forget what it stands for. Now, it's terrible. I'll think about it later. But you can get a separate tax ID number just for your business. Oh, employee identification number. Yeah. You can do that, but more than likely, if you're trying to get set up quick, you're trying to do the straw house method, just use your social, go get licensed, go skip directly to step 2, and then use that license to go open your bank account. So for you, for sole proprietorship, more than likely step 1, like barely step 1, go straight to step 2, and then go to step 5 and open your bank account. That's the easiest thing to do, right? But we talked about it. Like we talk about if you use the 3 pig example, the straw house is the most vulnerable, right? That's the easiest one to blow down, right? Because there's a thing called liability. Liability means if something goes wrong, it's your fault, right? Just like your car insurance. Sole proprietorship does not protect you if somebody thinks something is your fault, right? Depending on the type of business you have, if you're doing something that could hurt somebody and someone gets hurt and they sue you under a sole proprietorship, they would sue you directly and they'll go after your personal assets, your personal bank account, your personal, all that good stuff, right? You have no protection. There's no buffer between someone, there's no buffer between someone wanting to sue you and you losing your money, your personal income, personal whatever. They could even garnish your wages and all that bad stuff. So you're going to need some Insurance. Okay. So that's how you protect yourself with a straw house. Insurance. Okay. So the next up is the stick house. That's the LLC. Now, it's a stick house is because it's not as strong as a corporation, but it's definitely stronger than a sole proprietorship. It does offer you some protection, right? The idea behind an LLC, limited liability company, or some people call it limited liability corporation, but it's company. Is the idea is you do have a separate business entity. So there's you as a person, and then you do not use your social security number for this LLC. It has its own tax ID, the EIN, right? So now it's its own entity. So if somebody sues the company, they're going to go after the company's assets, not your personal stuff. Now, the reason why it's the house of sticks is because that most people who set up an LLC don't do the annual requirements, maybe use LegalZoom and forget to, don't fill it out properly, or basically they rush the process to try to get this thing up and running, and they don't maintain it. And so you think about all the little cracks, and all the gaps that you can see through with the stick house. That's kind of what it is. You have to be very diligent and on top of all the requirements. And if you just paid a couple $100s to get this thing set up and you never do the requirements, well, it's going to get blown down, right? It's still vulnerable. It gives you a little bit of protection, but if you don't do the requirements, it might as well be a straw house, right? So insurance, again, it's the big bad wolf can blow down the straw house easy. It takes him longer to blow down the LLC, but it is possible, especially if you don't cover them gaps, right? Now, I had an LLC. I was slacking on my requirements the first couple of years, and I started acting right and got right. And it does cost extra. You do have to do certain things, but it's worth it. Set it up correctly. Continue to maintain it correctly. And again, I know I'm being very vague and rushing through kind of the details, but there's tons of videos about what an LLC and what you have to do and all that stuff. All right, and then lastly, the brick house is the corporation. That takes the longest to set up, right? But that's the most secure as far as if someone wants to come after your personal assets, they got to now go through this brick house, and it's really hard to blow that thing down, right? Because if you set up a corporation, more than likely you have a lawyer involved, and the lawyer is going to make sure that your paperwork and all that stuff is airtight. And as long as you do what you're supposed to do every year, it's going to stay an airtight thing. It takes longer to make, but it's way more secure. And it's really hard for people to get your personal assets if they have to go through a corporation. So that's why I like using that analogy. Now, does it mean that the corporation's invincible? No, right? You still have to do requirements. It's just that out of the three, that's the strongest, okay? But like I said, it takes the longest to set up, and bricks are expensive, right? If you get lawyers, you get all the people to set this up correctly, it's going to cost you north of $1,000 plus, potentially a lot more than that. You start getting lawyers involved, which you should, it's going to cost you more. Now, you can get lawyers to help you with the LLC. I would definitely recommend that. It'll be cheaper, but it's still going to cost you some money, right? The LegalZooms and the business in the box solution type of thing, like LegalZoom.com. With those types of services, if you're already a lawyer and you know exactly what you're doing and you're just using a discount service, well, if you're a lawyer, you wouldn't be using those anyway. Scratch that example. What I'm saying is, if you don't have a awareness of legal terms and how to set up a business, basically avoid LegalZoom, because you'll spend $300 to try to get you a stick house. But then if it's not set up properly, well, it basically turns into a straw house by default. So now you just spent $300 for nothing, right? You're better off spending a couple $1,000s, get it set up airtight, and that way, if something goes wrong, it's been set up properly and you do have protection, and they're not going after your personal car and your bank account. You get what I'm saying? So Sole proprietorship, straw house, very easy to start. You can just jump to step 2, get your business license, get your bank account, off to the races. Steakhouse LLC takes a little longer to set up, gives you more protection, but can still be blown down fairly easy. You're going to need some insurance on whatever activity you do. Like for me, it was video insurance. So I went and got specialized insurance to protect me, as I'm driving to and from like a filming location, just in case one of my lights hit somebody, that kind of stuff, right? You can get insurance for LLCs and sole proprietorship. You can also get insurance for a corporation. It's just, you definitely need it. You need big bad wolf insurance for LLCs and sole proprietorship. Most certainly for sole proprietorships, because that's the only protection you'll have is insurance. The house of sticks has some protection in how it's set up, provided you follow the rules. All right. That being said, jumping to step 2, you're going to go get licensed. And that's really not that complicated of a step. For me, I went to the courthouse in the county I lived in, and I basically said, I want to do business in this county. My business address fell within the county. I went to the county courthouse. I applied for a business license. They basically asked me a couple of questions like, what do you do? How long have you been doing it? Most importantly, how much money do you think you'll make your first year? And you may not know. Just guess. But whatever you guess, they're going to try to make you calculate your taxes based on what you guess. So don't guess too high, right? But don't guess too low, obviously, because if you do have a really good first year and you told them you're going to make $100 and you end up making like 100,000, well, guess what? You're still going to have to pay those taxes, right? So have a good idea of what you're going to make or what you think you're going to make. Don't overestimate it, but don't underestimate it. And if you really don't know, then just put something down. I mean, you're going to have to pay taxes based on what you actually do anyway. It's just that this would give you kind of a head start. All right. So that's not really that complicated. Just, you're going to have to go to the county or the city. They all have rules. I'm in Atlanta, and depending on what your address is, what your business address is, it might be with Fulton County or the city of Atlanta, right? And if you go to the wrong place, you'll wait around for 2 hours, and then they'll say, oh, you're not supposed to be here. You need to be over there. And then you have to drive and start all over again. So just keep that in mind, right? Now, if you're a sole proprietorship, after you get that business license, they'll mail you some type of provisional license. They'll mail you the actual paper copy. And then you take that to the bank, skip directly to step 5, open a bank account, give them your ID, give them the business license, and they'll allow you to open a business account in your business name. Cool? All right. Now, if you're an LLC, you're going to have to get registered with the state, which means that after you choose your LLC, you get licensed. You may, at the same time, you don't have to wait to get your business license, but probably should. But then go register with the Secretary of State. So for in Georgia, you have to register with the Secretary of State, register your LLC as being part of the registered whatever. Just make sure you don't have a name that anyone else shares. Do that process. So now you have your business license that you're local, your state registration of your LLC. And at that point, you more than likely can stop unless your business needs to be federally registered or whatever. And then so after you do your state Secretary of State stuff with your LLC, you can now skip to step 5, get your business account, open your business account in your business name. Okay. And then lastly, if you're doing federal stuff, that means that you're probably beyond the scope of these videos. We're not going to really talk about that unless, for example, let's say you're an investment advisor and you manage a whole bunch of people's money. Well, once you get past a certain threshold, you have to be registered with the government, with the federal government. So yeah, once you're forced to file or register with the federal government, you're probably doing a scale of money and transactions that are well beyond the scope of this level of video. Okay. I know how to do that stuff, but that's not really the focus of these videos, okay? So whether you have a sole proprietorship, straw house, a house of sticks, an LLC, or a corporation, which is the bricks. And actually, real briefly, with a corporation, it's very similar to an LLC. You actually file with the Secretary of State. You have to do other stuff like, you have to, there's a requirement to be in like a legal newspaper. And honestly, I don't want to get too specific because every state can be different. And when you get to an international thing, I have no idea how it is in India or Australia or anything like that. But in America, depending on the state, you may have to do different things. But the idea is you have to basically do these processes. It takes longer for the corporation, but once you're done, then you can go to step 5, get your bank account. All right. So that's kind of the basic gist of it. And that's why this video is 16 minutes long, longer than that. If you want, and you want me to kind of drill more into what business type or what business step, let me know in the comments. I'll be glad to help you out. But the gist is you just really want to get the bank account and you want to be set up properly now at the beginning versus having to fix stuff in the future or get letters from some agency or the IRS or the state or city government. And then, or you get in trouble and someone gets hurt when you're doing something and they realize you weren't even licensed to do business and you're basically operating illegally. You get what I'm saying? So do all this stuff. It's a pain in the butt. It's going to take about a month. Okay. But get it all done so that you can get that behind you and then go off to the races and focus on building your business. All right. Hey, y'all take it easy. Bye.